Hi everybody, Mr. Rubo here. We are continuing with 3.12 equivalent representations of trig functions. And today, so we talked about the basic identities the last video. This video, we're going to talk about the Pythagorean identities. Okay. So if we talk about this, if we look at this unit circle, we have the x-coordinate, the y-coordinate, and then radius or hypotenuse of 1. Recall, you can express the answers as cosine theta, sine of theta for x and y. And if you think about this, if I use the Pythagorean theorem, you would end up saying this side squared plus this side squared equals the hypotenuse squared, right? But we know we can say that x is cosine and y is sine. So I could rewrite this identity as technically usually we see sine squared first, but it doesn't actually matter. Sine squared of the angle plus cosine squared of the angle equals 1 squared, which is just 1. We call this identity the Pythagorean identity because we use the Pythagorean theorem. Now, what we're going to do here is we can actually use the Pythagorean identity to come up with two other versions of it by just doing some simple division, okay, and using a few of the identities. So sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. You got to remember that one. These other two are based off of it, and the way you find them is by dividing by either sine squared or dividing by cosine squared. So when you divide by sine squared, you can see here I did the division. Sine squared over sine squared is 1. Cosine squared over sine squared, well, cosine over sine is cotangent. And then because they're both squared, it's cotangent squared. And it's going to equal 1 over sine squared. 1 over sine is cosecant squared. And there's another Pythagorean identity that we have. Okay, so 1 plus cotangent squared of theta equals cosecant squared of theta. And then we do the same idea, but this time we're going to divide by cosine squared. And it ends up working out very similarly. If we have sine over cosine, which is tangent, and they're both squared, so it's tangent squared. Cosine squared over cosine squared is plus 1. 1 over cosine is secant, it's squared, so there we go. And then this is the other Pythagorean identity. Tangent squared of theta plus 1 equals secant squared of theta. So yeah, again, if you know sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1, you then can figure out that 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared, and also tangent squared plus 1 equals secant squared. Yeah, there is your Pythagorean identities, and thanks for watching. Have a good day.